Oh, hold on. Before we start, I gotta find something, man. Hold on. Wait, where's my phone?
Wow. I that's the obvious one. I should have seen that one coming.
Oh man, all day, every day. And welcome back, everybody, to the best music podcast on all sides of planet Earth. This podcast is called Hey Listen to This. And the way that we measure the distinction that we are indeed the best podcast on planet Earth is we travel to Ukraine and we go all the way to Uganda. And this podcast is indeed hosted by two dashing good-looking men who share the same middle name. I'm the one. I am the only. I'm the one who's a little bit rusty at doing these intros, but is able to focus and stick the landing. Ryan James Kearns.
And I am the one, the only, the I appreciate your irony there, good sir, Matthew James Durzik. And for those of you who don't know what it is that we do here on Hey Listen to This, every week me and Ryan convene to talk about an album that we have listened to, a music album that we have listened to. Whether it's an artist we like, whether it's based on a certain theme, whether it's a new release of sorts, and this week's album kind of fits a couple of those categories, but maybe three. But in any case, we gather together, we talk about the album, track by track, line by line, note by note, pick out what we like, what we don't like, what we thought could have improved, what we think is just flawless, and at the end of every episode, once we are done reviewing the album, we give the album a rating out of 10. We recommend an album based off the album we just talked about. We pick a new album to talk about, and the cycle begins anew. So last time we did a full review, Ryan, we were in the midst of Women's History Month, and the woman I chose to select this time around was one Hilary Duff and her album Luck or Something. That was our first album that we reviewed in 2026, that we reviewed in 2026. What were your thoughts about that album?
So, my overall thoughts about that album and doing the review as a whole, solid album if somebody were to ask me, hey, I'm looking to check out Hilary Duff, and where should I go, and should I check out this her most recent release? And I would be like, yeah, it's not bad. Like, it's a good time for a casual pop fan listener as myself is. And doing the review, it's always a blast doing the review with you. And I was kind of intrigued to see where you were going to land on the overall score on the album compared to me. And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, it's been a little bit since we did that review. I felt like you were a little bit higher on it than me, but not significantly higher as compared to when we did the Sabrina Carpenter review, for example.
Yeah, no, we were a lot closer on the Hilary Duff album than we were on the Sabrina Carpenter album by far. And for various reasons, but at the same time, like you said, the review was a blast. Got to cover Miss Duff in her mature version compared to her Disney years. But if you want to check out what we thought of Luck or Something, the episode's up, and we'll tell you where to find it later on in this episode. And speaking of this episode, Ryan, it is your turn to have picked an artist for us to review. What are we going to be talking about this week?
So for this week, we're going to be talking about, the second album that we are going to be reviewing from the current year of our Lord 2026. And that album is by an artist, Mitski. And the specific album, for those of you who can't do a simple Google, or, just look at the episode title of this episode here right now. That album is Nothing's About to Happen to Me. Now, for those of you who are out there and who are like, wait. What is a Mitski, and is it like some sort of Korean stir-fry dish? Well, ladies and gentlemen, and anybody who identifies as anything in between, I don't think it's a stir-fried dish. I mean, there might be a stir-fried dish out there in Korea named after Mitski. For all I know, I'm not from Korea. I'm not a cook. I am just a simple, podcaster from Pittsburgh here. But in terms of the actual music artist Mitski, allow me to, do a brief overview of who she is as a person, as an artist, and what led her to release this album in 2026. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's be a cowboy and talk about some Mitski here. So, Mitski Laycock was born September 27th, 1990 in Japan. Growing up, she moved frequently due to her father's career with the U.S. Department of State. Highlights of places that she lived was Turkey, China, Malaysia, the Czech Republic. Remember the Czech Republic, man?
I do.
In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, before eventually settling in the grand old U.S. of A. In her teens, she briefly worked with a talent manager in Japan who attempted to market her as a cute young girl pop idol. Side note, gross. Now that we know all the things about quiet on the set and all the behind the scenes stuff, a bunch of the teen, the famous teen actors that we grew up watching, what they had to go through. So gross. But I just wanted to include that. Continuing on with the overview. Her true musical journey began when she wrote her first song on the piano at the age of 18 while living in Turkey. So, after a brief stint studying film at Hunter College, she transferred to SUNY, which is SUNY, Purchase Conservatory of Music, to study studio composition. During this time, she basically independently released her first two piano-based albums as student projects. Those albums being Lush, released in 2012, and in 2013, the very next year, the album she released was Retired from Sad, New Career in Business. Side note, that's going to be my autobiography, or what's going to be on my headstone when I pass away. What a beautiful title. So, following graduation, Mitski transitioned away from orchestral sounds towards more raw, impulsive guitar work, and her official debut label release album, which was released in 2014, released by Double Whammy. That album in question is Bury Me at Makeout Creek. This album gathered significant critical acclaim, though basically it only remained as a cult success, a cult classic, as compared to a commercial success. She followed it up with Puberty 2 in 2016. This was released with the label Dead Oceans. She signed with them in 2015. So looking at the year in between for those of you who aren't able to keep up or are looking at my notes right now. But yeah, she released this album to widespread acclaim with Rolling Stone, of all publications, our favorite publication out there, Matthew, naming the track Your Best American Girl as one of the best songs of the decade. So what a fun distinction there. So after this, Mitski's profile grew through supporting tours, opening up for the Pixies and Lorde, and after that she released some highly after going through these tours, she went on a little bit of a run with highly influential releases. Most importantly is her album that popped out in 2018 called Be the Cowboy. So this was I think people often view Be the Cowboy as her the crown jewel of what Mitski's ever put out. as an artist. So like this was a massive critical success, named album of the year by Pitchfork, Vulture, and Consequence of Sound. She followed that up with an album released in 2022 called Laurel Hell. While it did receive like decent reviews, some critics honestly viewed the synth-heavy project as a step back from Be the Cowboy and her previous records. She followed Laurel Hell up with the album in 2023 called The Land Is in Hospital, and So Are We. This was basically widely considered as a return to form for Mitski. Critics place this record on the same legendary status as Be the Cowboy. So yeah, that's basically a brief overview of who Mitski is as an artist. I just know that she does have a cult following. There's a internet fandom out there that's basically said, "Hey, run me over with a truck, Mitski," that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, before I go over my specific relationship with Mitski and my thoughts about her prior to doing this review, and well, honestly, prior to when this album specifically Nothing's About to Happen to Me released, I'm gonna flip it over to you, Matthew. What is your relationship with Mitski? Are you, when you listen to Be the Cowboy, were you like, yes, I will be the cowboy?
Well, full disclosure, I have yet to listen to that album, despite Rolling Stone's high marks. And going into this review, I pretty much did not know who Mitski was, except for one line. I've mentioned before that I am a frequent watcher of videos by Todd in the Shadows. I forget which episode this was, but I know he was talking about some song or project that had a weird artist-producer collab, and the line that he used was, it would be like if the next Mitski album was produced by Marshmello. And so I'm thinking, okay, there's some context clues here, which is that if Marshmello, who is known for just doing flat pop in the most bland style, is working with Mitski, and that's wrong, then that means Mitski is someone who is considered very underground, very, rootsy, etc., etc. But that is legitimately the only context I had about Mitski heading into this review, so I wasn't sure what to expect. I'll give my thoughts on the music here in a second, but I will echo your sentiments about the fandom, because I did listen to this album on YouTube, and boy, you're not wrong about the fandom, man. There were a couple songs there where they said, I'm trying to think which one of the songs it was. I almost wanted to say might have been Cats or something, just as an example, where the comment said, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe Mitski invented Cats just to make this song." It's just that is so insane and wild, and I appreciate every single piece of it. So, that is a very limited and brief background that I have with Mitski. So I throw it back to you, good sir. What is yours?
So, with Mitski here, I was, for those of you who, if this is your very first time tuning in to, hey, listen to this, my favorite music reviewer / YouTuber out there, well, I guess Philip DeFranco is going up there nowadays, but I digress. My favorite, YouTuber out there, music guy, is Mr. Anthony Fantano, and due to him just reviewing indie and notable albums throughout the years, I was very much made aware about Mitski. I think it might have been Puberty 2 that was my first introduction to Mitski. But yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. With her specifically, I knew that people liked her, and she was she had that cult following. But I was just I don't get it, man. I don't get it. This just sounds like basic music to me. And after Be the Cowboy came out, Laurel Hell, I listened to all her subsequent releases. But if you were to ask me, Ryan, have you ever one, is any of Mitski's stuff in your record collection? The answer is no. Or, hey, Ryan, is any of Mitski's stuff in your Bandcamp collection? Outside of the album that we're talking about here today, the answer is no. But, yeah, and I don't know what made me, want to check out Nothing's About to Happen to Me. It might have just been it came through my rotation of oh, hey, Mitski released an album, let me check it out, that way I'm aware about it, and can at least say, hey, I recognize that album cover, but I don't remember any songs off of it, because that's sometimes how I feel at the end of the year when I'm looking at year-end lists. It's a good memory hold thing for me. But yeah, there was just something about this album. I'm not going to go into it 100%. But yeah, there was something about this album that made me take pause and be like, hey, let's reconsider Mitski, Ryan. Let's give her a second chance.
That is fair. Funny enough, you talk about how you quote unquote didn't get Mitski beforehand. I have a theory about that I'm going to save for way later in the episode. And I'm not going to spoil that any further because I feel like it would spoil anything to talk about it. But with that being said, now that you have given your thoughts on Mitski, and I have as well, and we've gone over the overview, I say, Ryan, we just jump right into the sumbitch and go into this album. And I'll kick it off to you for track 1, which is In a Lake.
So, yeah, I'm ready to jump into this album. I'm ready to jump in a lake. Sorry, the dad jokes are there, man. Even though, I guess, technically I am a dad because I have dogs here and, fur babies do count. But I digress. I always enjoy a good dad joke. So, with In a Lake here, I found this to honestly be a solid way to open up the album. It's not really that much of a mind-blowing song, but it's very much you're getting your feet wet, you're really just jumping into and you're swimming and swimming and swimming. And you get the vivid imagery in terms of in the lyrics where hold on. Yeah, in the lyrics, specifically in the chorus, but in a lake you can backstroke forever, the sky before you, the dark right behind. So that, yeah, you get that imagery of just literally just swimming in the lake. But not even outside of that, it's not just about swimming in the lake. The whole concept about In a Lake as a song, it's a reflection on regrets and just feeling trapped by the person that you used to be. My lyrical highlight off of the track is actually the in the opening verse. It's a little bit towards the end of the verse, so it's the bar reads, "It's like one brand of soap sold in town, because anyone you get close to smells like your first time around." And even outside of the opening bar specifically, says, "I'd never live in a small town. I made too many mistakes for where you got to write your book early or it gets written in your place." So yeah, that's basically what you can kind of gather from the beginning of the song. And for that, I kind of dig that. I kind of dig that, hey, want to be your own person and just go into a big city and just start over. So yeah, outside of the lyrics, I really did appreciate the feel of the track. This is the best way that I could describe what I felt about the feel of the track. It made me feel like I was walking down the streets of Rome at night. Because you get that, kind of swinging feeling, and then you also get, that accordion sound. I was just it just felt very homey, and I was just you know what? I kind of like that, kind of dig that. I appreciate what she was going for there. And, I felt the car noises at the end, and also... yeah, I just felt at the ending, you get a bit of a twist and pop into the final explosion of the song. it almost feels like at a certain point, like the flow gets like disjointed or disrupted, almost enough to become an issue. But then it just pops off at the end, and I felt like that was a great way to end off the track. And the concept of the chorus plays well within the meaning of the song, which, like, like I illustrated at the beginning, like she's talking about like swimming in the lake. The freedom offered by the lake, where, like, it's only you and the sky above you, is seen as a respite from the past and future alike. So you're basically just forced to experience life in the moment. So yeah, overall though, In the Lake is a great I don't want to say a great way to open up the album, but it's a solid way to open up the album. So I'm putting it in the good song bucket. And in terms of like my hand here, my gamut for Nothing's About to Happen to Me by Mitski, I only have a top three. I don't have a bottom anything.
So for me, In a Lake being the first ever Mitski song I ever heard in my life, I gotta say, I really did like this song quite a bit. Find it very odd, although I appreciate your explanation of you thinking about the streets in Rome, because, anytime you hear that, accordion, you think of, going down the rivers through the streets of Venice, with a guy playing accordion on the back of a boat, just, serenading you and or your lover. But so I get that, but to me, the sound of this track harkens to two bands I can think of right away, which are The Band and Big Thief. And it's not just because we covered those, because we did not cover Dragon, New War, Mountain, I Believe in You on this show that we do. But those are the vibes I got right away. Just the very down-homey, acoustic vibes with the accordion. Just very, back porch, looking at the countryside. In fact, you talk about the vision of being on a lake and sort of backstroking forever. I almost envisioned something like in a dream sequence from BoJack Horseman, oddly enough. Like either when he went to the old Sugarman place, or whether he had that fantasy, while very high on drugs, just that very serene, typical Norman Rockwell type of vibe to it. So I really did appreciate the musical vision that this song has. My lyrical highlight, honestly, is the lyric you mentioned in the chorus, which is, in a big lake, you could backstroke forever. In a big city, you could start over. Because that in itself is just the thesis of the song as a whole. Looking for that reset, looking for that bit of calm and serenity that doesn't necessarily come with everyday life, especially when you have certain expectations placed upon you. Whether it's from a romantic perspective, a financial perspective, or just an overall societal perspective. There's that mold that you're trying to break free from, and you need to have a reset from that. So I very much appreciated the overall theme of this song based on that. And it does match that nice, comforting ambiance of the music itself, especially with the acoustic guitar, with the accordion. Everything just scaled back to be as down home as it is. But I do agree with you that final swell on the chorus is executed fantastically, because then you feel like, with all the noise and all the chaos, it feels like you are, in fact, in the big city. You're standing in the middle of Times Square looking to make a fresh start. And I thought that was executed wonderfully. To me, In a Lake is a wonderful introduction to this album and to Mitski as a whole. I, too, only have a top three, and this song lands in it at number 2.
Okay. That kind of took me by surprise a little bit, but I mean, if this is your second favorite song, and you don't have a bottom anything, I'm kind of intrigued to see what you got cooked up there over on your end of the world there, your own end of Nothing's About to Happen to Me by Mitski. But yeah, I can totally respect that, man. Yeah. Without any further ado, you want to keep the gravy train rolling with the next track here, which is Where's My Phone?
Yes, Where's My Phone? And to answer that question, it's right in front of me, because that is how we record these episodes. Peek behind the curtain. Anyways, Where's My Phone switches things up right away, where In a Lake was very down home and very acoustic driven and very serene. Where's My Phone? Not so serene, because now we switch to a much more very edgy, grungy, unpolished garage rock sound that is very guitar heavy and very drum heavy. And it musically, I think it sounds all right. It's nothing too spectacular. It definitely announces that things are switching up as they are. Um, and I will say that the whole switch reflects the attitude of the song, which is based around, hey, where's my phone? And therefore, where's my identity? Therefore, where is my connection to the rest of the world? Um, I will say there were a couple moments in this song that kind of jumped out at me for being a little odd. First of all, and I have it written here, did she just censor herself? Like, well, why did she do that? I mean, don't get me wrong. She has absolutely every right to throw a bleep in a song if she wants to for artistic license. But in this day and age, I'm legitimately shocked by that. I'm surprised that she decided to do that. And perhaps you could elaborate further on to why she did that. I will say that her singing on this track is good. I would wish it was mixed a little better, though. Like, I'm guessing maybe it was left a little unvarnished and sort of blends in on purpose to sort of give it that very tense, uneasy feeling of feeling lost. But at the same time, I feel like overall what it creates is a song that, you know, if the vocal performance is as good as it is, maybe lift it up just a hair more. I will say the swelling on this track, because once again we get another swelling towards the end, is a little less smooth than it is on In a Lake, but I definitely believe that was by design and that was done on purpose. That it was meant to switch things up, get that very distorted and out of tune guitar front and center, and make for this really just panicky, frustrated ending to this song. Is it the most pleasant thing on earth? No, but I don't think it's meant to be, which I'm more sure of than the vocal mixing. But overall, Where's My Phone definitely is a nice change of pace. Not in my top three. I'm going to put it in the good song bucket because it's a solid song. I appreciate it. It's definitely not a skip by any means, but not really as wowing as In a Lake was for me.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. So, one thing that I'll start with is the choice to censor herself in the second verse. Like, I wasn't able to find like a specific reason why she censored herself. I mean, in my opinion, I thought it came across as like a nice fun touch, like, you know, something that kind of can keep you on your toes, like, you know, make sure that, hey, are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? So yeah, I felt like that was fun overall, and yeah, like you talk about with how the overall feel of the song is more garage rocky and, like, you know, more of a straight up rock song, and I'm right there with you. I mean, obviously if you have ears you can notice the tonal shift between In a Lake and Where's My Phone, but yeah, I very much enjoyed the tonal shift overall. And considering like the songs like Core Meaning, which is about like dissociation from the pressuring society and mental health struggles that worsen with each day, you get like Mitski. I know you said like you kind of wish the vocals were recording a little bit better, but I found the contrast between the way that the vocals came across and how they were like very, like, I describe them as playful because you get the melody of like da 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 da. Like you get that like like, you know, you get that like against the, like, you know, kind of chaotic, like, you know, garage rock feel, and I very much enjoyed how that came across. And yeah, and like contrasting the melody of the verses with how things coming across in the chorus where Mitski's just simply asking where's her phone. Yeah, I felt like that was a nice, like, little bit of a switch up there. And one thing I did like also enjoy heavily was in the outro where things just become more chaotic to the point that, like, if I wasn't looking at the lyrics, I wouldn't really kind of pick up that Mitski's just singing through like heavily distorted vocals. It's almost just like the society that she's trying to escape, like, the whether if you want to draw like the comparisons of, like, technological like pressures or just society in general, like she's being like the society's just basically kind of like muffling her voice, like to the point that you can't even hear her anymore. So yeah. And with Where's My Phone, I did have a lyrical highlight, and it wasn't for the fact of like this lyric specifically blew me away. It was the fact that, like, well, let me just explain. So in verse 1, you get the bar, a woman always on the same street called me a ditch. A ditch on my block, she said. Now, like, for those of you who are like, hey, hold on. Did she mean the other word? No, she very much meant ditch as a whole. So that description of the woman, like, saying, hey, a ditch on my block, immediately brings to mind that of a prostitute working a corner or a street. Interestingly, this also may be a biblical reference, as Proverbs 23:27. Yes, we're bringing the Bible into this, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just read the NIV version, which is, for an adulterous woman is a deep pit, a wayward wife is narrow well. And in the King James version, which actually uses the word ditch, for a whore is a deep ditch, and a strange woman is a narrow pit. So, yeah, like, I found it to be fun. Yeah, because, like, just looking into, like, the overall, like, just the backstory, though, I found it to be entertaining. But yeah, just overall, though, wrapping up my points about Where's My Phone, unlike you, I do have this in my top 3. Because I found this to be one of the, like, just, there's a lot of fun stuff here, and I very much enjoy the production as a whole. Where's My Phone is my 3rd favorite track off the whole record.
Respectable, very respectable. I thought this track was pretty good. Catch Me on a Different Day, I could probably elevate it to maybe like great or cut track territory, just because it's a very consistently good rock sound. It does show a bit broader perspective of what Mitski's trying to say in this overall album. Just wish things were a little different on my end, but I'm not going to knock it too much. It's a very solid song, and I very much appreciate the switch up from the serenity of On a Lake. That being said, Ryan, I am ready, if you are, to move on to the next track, which is Cats.
The lesser form of dogs. No, just kidding.
Wow.
But yeah, with Cats here, we kind of start to get into the meat and potatoes, like, in a lake, kind of like, lyrically explored what Mitski can bring to the table. But with Cats here, you kind of get a little bit more of a taste of what she brings to the table lyrically, and probably what makes her fan base love her so much. I'll get to the point, though. The opening bars here kind of illustrate what I'm trying to get to, which is, I won't leave you because I still love you, so it's up to you if you choose to go. In the meantime, sleeping by my side are 2 cats making sure I'll be all right. So, like, throughout this whole song, you get, like, the yearning for, like potential, not yearning for potential heartbreak, but you get yearning for this love to stay, but not wanting to hold this love back. And yeah, I honestly love that, like, that emotion that you're able to feel through it in the song. And the also the instrumentation is very, very nice here. Like, you get the standard stuff like guitar and drums, but you also get some French horns. And did I hear a Barry sax in Cats? Because you know me, when I hear a Barry sax, that's the sound of my people, 100%. But the way that the first verse flows into the chorus is just so tight, so seamless. I'm always a fan of that. And the change up in the second verse to have the toms to be the featured, like, force in that moment in the song, I found that to be very nice. And I always appreciate when, like, the you don't get like a standard instrument, like, like the percussion, for example, leading the charge on the instrument front. I felt that to be very cool. And I also kind of dug how the song ends up unresolved. Like, we don't always need, like, given like the context of the song, like, for it to end up unresolved, like, does make sense. And yeah, just to summarize again the point in the overall meaning about Cats. In here, she's discussing dependence on someone that goes so far to the point that you can't find yourself living without a person, and she justifies independence, but then immediately, basically, just owning to the feeling of isolation if she complies. And yeah, in terms of a lyrical highlight, verse 1, you get the bar. So I've been trying to stop trying to be like someone you still like. And that kind of lyric makes you take, like, it gives you pause, because it's just like, hold on. So I've been trying to stop trying to be someone like you like. So, like, basically, yeah, just trying to claim independence and just trying to be your own person. So yeah. But yeah, overall though, with Cats, I'm putting in the good song bucket, mainly because there's not much else here other than the lyrics, and the instrumentation's fine, but nothing that's going to completely blow me away. And, like, obviously, I just feel like other songs off the album are a bit superior.
That's fair. My thoughts on Cats, I agree that the instrumentation is very nice, and to me, this represents a bit of the middle ground between the first two tracks. With In a Lake, you got a very, again, calming acoustic presence. With Where's My Phone, it was pretty much straight, solid, hard rock throughout. Here you get a little bit that's in the middle. You get heavy drums, you get a pretty distorted guitar, but you also, like you say, get those little elements of smoothness, like the French horn and the Barry sax, and it creates for a bit more of a more traditional indie rock sound. And I know that's an oxymoron, but trust me on this one. And what really got me about this song was how heartfelt and open the lyrics were, like you were saying. Like, this is really the first time that Mitski started to open up about her relationships or, vulnerability towards them. Like, In a Lake sort of was broad stroking it a little bit with talking about just wanting to escape and do a fresh start, but it wasn't really a personal tale for her, or at least it wasn't, super personal. Where's My Phone, a little bit more personal, but again, I feel like that's just more of a situation that anybody can have. Here, it feels like she is speaking from direct personal experience, and I think that is the highlight of this song, is just how direct and confrontational these lyrics are. I will agree with you, though, that as nice as the instrumentation is and as deep as these lyrics get, this is merely a taste of what is to come. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to elevate a little higher than you, because I think I appreciate this track a bit more. So I'm going to put this in the great song bucket, because it is, well, a great song. Simple enough.
Yeah. And I mean, for better or for worse, like, I very much appreciate that you're a little bit higher on this track than me, and you're absolutely right on the money. Like, we're about to, like, really get into the deep end with the lyrical, like, emotional depth that Mitski's bringing to the table here with this album. And also, like, one thing that I'll, like, kind of wrap everything back together with once we hit Lightning, because it was just something I just realized today, but when we get to Lightning at the end of the album, I will highlight that fact. Matthew, with that being said, are you ready to kick it into the next track here, which is If I Leave?
Yes, If I Leave. And talk about deep lyrics. The opening line of this song: If I leave, someone else will love you, but nobody else could forgive me. Right away, we are entering into the deepest of deep ends. And more so deepens the anxieties that were displayed on Cats. And from there on, it is just a buffet of anxiety that is laid out in these lyrics, of just wondering that, what the situation is going to be if this person that you've become attached to gets so, that you've gone so close to, somehow goes away. What happens? What's going to happen if, they find someone new, or if you just don't have anybody, or maybe they don't have anybody. But yeah, that opening line sets the salvo for a very anxious song. And what echoes that anxiety is how the instrumentation on this song is a little bit higher in intensity than it was on Cats. Not quite the slash and bash of Where's My Phone, but it's a very intense, very tight, very almost uptight type of vibe, especially on the drumming. The drumming on the song is really, really good. It's not super fancy. It's not, Neil Peart live with Rush, but what it does is it grounds the beat, and it's mixed to the front, and it just marches this beat of frustration and anxiety and confusion, really, to the forefront of the sonic palette. So I thought that was fantastic, and how it just elevates the intensity. And what adds to that is, once again, much like two of the first three tracks, we get a groundswell towards the end of the song where everything just elevates into just this frantic state. And the drums, I think, are the leading charge of that, because you get that elevated hi-hat and it just sort of explodes into this level of frustration. And equally up to the task, along with the drums and the rest of the instrumentation, is Mitski herself. Because on the verses, she lays low. She's very hushed. She's very, in her element of, speaking as vulnerable as her lyrics are, matching the vulnerability of her lyrics. And then, as soon as the music bursts, she bursts right along with it, and it sounds fantastic. So yeah, if Cats was the appetizer, If I Leave is very much a main course of a song. So much so that we have once again entered my top three, and we have reached the mountaintop. If I Leave is my favorite song on the album.
Oh man. So yeah, I'm just gonna try to piggyback off of a couple things that you already laid out with If I Leave. So I agree with you 100%. Like, everything lyrically is just so heartbreaking, and I love how the song absolutely rocks throughout. Like, you honestly get the best of both worlds here. And you highlighted the opening bar, which is, If I leave, somebody else will love you, but no one else could forgive me quite as often as you. So, like, that is a lyrical highlight through and through. My lyrical highlight, though, came in the bridge, where everything just really when it really, really pops out, which is how I ride through a tunnel and it's dark the whole way. And this is basically the encapsulation of Mitski's psyche going through life and dealing with, like, mental health issues, where, like, just riding through, like, a compressed area, and it's just so dark. So yeah, and the way that lyric is accompanied by, like, the chaotic, like, popping of the song as a whole is, like, indeed, like, chef's kiss throughout the whole track there. So, like, love that. And getting into, like, a couple of the other nuts and bolts about this song, this whole song basically kind of has, like, a waltz feel to it, which is kind of interesting. And I also love how like we've gotten many different sides of Mitski here so far in terms of like musical songwriting. So yeah, hats off to her for that. And like the waltz feel does play off well considering the heartbreaking lyrics. Like it's very much like dancing to your own kind of doom thing. So yeah, I found that to be pretty good. The song overall, though, like when we're talking about like the waltz feel and like the pop that happens in the bridge, like it very much has a slow burn effect, and it's also interesting in that like you get moments in the song where you feel like it's about to pop, but it doesn't. But then when it goes into like how I ride through a tunnel, it starts the whole way. Like that's when it truly does pop. Very much appreciate like the playful teasingness of it, and yeah, the overall like like vocal delivery from Mitski is very passionate, and again can't say enough about her lyrics being very devastating, and yeah, just I really don't need to go into the meaning of the song because we kind of already like like we've already kind of established throughout our discussion here like this song is basically about like a heartbreak that's going to happen. Like if you think about like how Cats was kind of teasing about the heartbreak, this is the heartbreak right here. So yeah, I don't really have any other notes to say about If I Leave other than the fact that you and I are in unison here, man, with If I Leave here. It is indeed my favorite song off the whole record, with the caveat that my second favorite song on the record kind of took me by surprise, but when we get to it, we get to it, man.
And that's fair because this album as a whole, not to spoil too much, but does have a lot of different parts to it that can surprise you and shock you at different moments. But I'm glad that we agree on If I Leave because it is such a just terrifically executed gut punch of a song where you're just right in front and center of her anxiety. And like you said, the way that it becomes clear and envisioned is very well written. And the way that the music complements it is, again, perfectly executed. So, yeah, If I Leave, absolute fantastic track on this album. With that being said, Ryan, we'll see what comes next as far as our thoughts because the next track is entitled Dead Women.
So, with Dead Women, yeah, this song is just simply devastatingly beautiful. Like, the main attraction to this song here is just the lyrics and how intense they are. Like I'm gonna go over like at least my lyrical highlight coming right out of the gate, which is found in verse 2, and the bar reads, "But since I'm alive, you'll have to break in as I sleep. When you find my love beside me, choke him dead for having me." Like, like, oh my god, like that is just like oh, like so dark and just so devastating. Like the whole like song as a whole is like about agency, the autonomy of women, or rather their lack thereof, due to like people's constant need to warp their stories into a more appealing narrative that rarely reflects the full truth of who they were as people. Like you get the bar of like she gave her life so we can bleep her as we please. So yeah, just the whole lyric writing is extremely clever, extremely cutthroat, and yeah, I very much appreciated that. Outside of the lyrics, though, the instrumentation is just so subtle, but it works so well with those lyrics, and the chorus is pretty solid and simple. Just Mitski singing the do 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 like and this is not gonna be the first time that we're gonna have like very simple like lyrics within a chorus, because Mitski does utilize like vocalizations like this throughout the record. But here, like, very much again, like, I love how it works alongside the strings that are accompanying her. Like, it's very nice. But yeah, I don't have much else to say about Dead Women other than the fact that, honestly, catch me on a different day, this would have been a top 3 track for me. However, this is like, well, maybe the only cut track that I have on the whole album. Just barely missed the cut, man.
So, your lyrical highlight is not the same as mine. Mine, much like If I Leave, comes in the opening line of the song, which is, would you have liked me better if I had died, so you could tell my story the way it ought to be? Dude, like, come on. Like, that is such a grab you by the throat and tell me the truth type of line. And I was just like, once again, immediately hooked by it. And it's just very much just confrontational, much like If I Leave was. And the rest of the song pretty much follows suit, like you said. It definitely has a bit more of a snark to it. Like, if I Leave was Mitski at her most vulnerable, this is her being a bit more condescending. And I think what the real tip-off of the condescension is that chorus that you mentioned, where it has that very sort of like do, just sort of, I plant this bomb of confrontation here. I'm just going to walk away, do, which I do love that. I do love the snarkiness of that. But it does, again, feel a bit more calculated and hard-headed than If I Leave was. Not that that's a bad thing, it's just different. Also different is the fact that, like you said, the instrumentation is a lot more subtle than it was on If I Leave. It has a bit more of a sweep and ease to it that sort of smooths everything out. And unlike Where's My Phone, where I thought that her vocals seemed to be perhaps unintentionally blending into the instruments, here I think it's completely intentional, and I think it works, much like you said, because the way those doo-doo-doos just sort of blend into the strings on the refrain definitely has that, again, feel of her walking away from the bomb she just set in this conversation. So I think that was executed wonderfully. And the way that her vocals, as hushed as they are, definitely have that sort of haunting feel to it. Because this is a very haunting set of lyrics. This is basically her saying, listen, if I died, how would you benefit from it? Which is just a very stark thing to ask anybody, let alone your lover and or ex-lover. So yeah, I am a little higher on this song than you, and since you had in cut territory, that can only mean one thing. We have completed my top 3 already. Dead Women clocks in at number 3.
As interesting as that phrase is to hear, very much like, kudos to you for making tidy work out of your top 3 coming right out of the gate, before we even get to like side B of the review here. But yeah, I think going forward, I'm not going to be able to hear the that section without thinking about your analysis of it, being like, hey, I just planted this bomb and I'm just going to walk away. Very, very apt analysis by you. So yeah, I'm very excited to hear your thoughts about the rest of the album here, because spoiler alert, I think you actually might be a little bit higher on this album than me. But when we get to the overall rating, we will. But that would ultimately be like, I don't know, the ultimate Uno reverse card. Like, the tables will turn. But in the meantime, Matthew, I'm going to kick it on over to you to close off side A of the album and the review with Instead of Here.
Yes, Instead of Here, and we get a change back on this particular song. We go from the harshness of what we heard. I mean, to be fair, Dead Women was a bit of a transition away from the hard rock of If I Leave that made this musical choice feel like inevitability, but still much a shift between Dead Women and Instead of Here, where Dead Women was haunting and very almost chamber pop. Here we get more of a steel pedal and soft organ introduction. So we're tilting towards almost country vibes. And when I say country, I'm not talking necessarily, Garth Brooks or Florida Georgia Line. I'm thinking more like Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde, like very testing out the country waters and getting some of that very rootsy feel, but not quite so country that you're breaking out the fiddle and stomping and line dance and all that fun stuff. Also included in that, along with the steel pedal and the soft organ, the piano on this track I thought was very good. The solo was very nice. I did dig that quite a bit. And overall, too, I'd say the biggest contrast between this and Dead Women and the two tracks before it is how this feels, at least musically, a whole lot brighter. Like, musically, I think this is the brightest and sunniest track on the album so far. However, the lyrics are not that. The lyrics are very much not sunny at all, because we take a deeper dive into her psyche and her fragility, because clearly on this song she is, at the very least, choosing isolation from the world that made her turn this way and turn into a bit of a, what's going to happen to me type of vibe. And possibly she is confronting death. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, she's confronting the possibility of not being in the here, wherever this here is. So the lyrics are incredibly dark. So it does create for a very interesting contrast between the sunny country vibes of the music and the very dark, I don't want to be here lyrics. So I did appreciate both of them very much. However, it didn't really stick out to me so much that I'm willing to put it any higher than I would say maybe a good song bucket, because while I do appreciate the contrast, this isn't necessarily a song I see myself going back to over and over again. And granted, I think juxtaposition does have a lot to do with that. I mean, coming off the 1-2 punch of If I Leave and Dead Women, it's kind of hard to follow that up with a very soft song, especially one that's delivered as sort of hushed and comforting as it is. But still, I very much appreciate what the song does bring to the table, at least from a standpoint of mixing two very different vibes and trying to put them together.
Yeah. And I'll just piggyback off of your overall feelings about Instead of Here. I feel like what kind of maybe holds this song back from really reaching its full potential is the main thing that I enjoyed about the track is, like, ironically enough, the lyrics. And you get lyrics that basically are talking about just reading some of the bars here, was instead of live, I was lying on the floor with death crouching beside me and still got up for more, saying I'm done after this. To think I did believe it, I'd gone where no one can reach. And yeah, she's literally talking about almost dying. So yeah, and my lyrical highlight on the track was actually found in the final chorus, which the bar reads, "So excuse me, I'll be opening my box of old friend misery, my secret treat to feel like myself again." Oh my god, fuck me, dude. That bar is just so cutting, so deep, and just the way that she's able to really dive into the dark psyche of the human experience here is phenomenal. But what kind of holds this back from being a top track contention for me is the fact that the instrumentation is just pretty much on par with other tracks on the LP so far. And when I mean like other tracks, I'm not talking about like obviously like Where's My Phone and like like If I Leave, but I'm talking about the Cats or the In a Lake, where like we get very much like the soft spoken instrumentation here, which is not bad, but we're still very much riding the same vibe, and I kind of wanted maybe a little bit more here, and if there was a little bit more, this track could have easily popped into a top 3 spot. The chorus here isn't really much of a chorus, like, and that's one thing I kind of did enjoy about Mitski's writing as a whole, because she kind of takes the songwriting concept of a chorus throughout this whole LP and kind of flips it on its head. So I found that to be pretty entertaining. However, like with the chorus though, instead of here, like it expands every time throughout the whole track, and I found that to be pretty cool. I did enjoy the like you. I did enjoy the instrumental break. The piano break was kind of nice, but a little bit brief. But I did enjoy how Mitski did sound here vocally, and how the melody ended up, where it just seems like she was circling around the feeling of like, hey, I'm where no one else can find me. I found that to be a nice, pleasant thing to hear, but considering where the person is, where they can't find her, it's either she's talking about death or she's just extremely isolated. So yeah, that's kind of dark, kind of interesting to think about. But yeah, overall though, like I'm ultimately landing on putting Instead of Here in the good song bucket, because phenomenal lyrics, but just wanted a little bit more from the instrumentation. But not a bad song.
It's not a bad song. It's solid for what it is. I will agree with you that there is that element of wanting more, because I would say that, again, even though I did really like the instrumentation and the overall vibe of In a Lake, I wouldn't put this track on par with that. And again, putting this track behind Dead Women and If I Leave is not really fair to this track. However, I will give Mitski a little leeway with that, because I feel like if you had gone with a similar sound to If I Leave to use on this track, it might be one of the most depressing songs of all time. So I kind of understand wanting to sort of maybe smooth that over just a hair, just so you're not, just like checking underneath your vinyl copy of this to see if somehow the void entered into your record player. So like I get it. Would I love this to be a little bit more intense? I think I'm right there with you on that. But ultimately, I understand why she would have done it, because if she had gone hard rock with this, I don't know, man. Like, I think it would have just, like, I don't know if I would have been able to listen to side B without crying.
Oh, man. So, one thing that I will say about, like, the complaint that I have about the instrumentation, like, I didn't really want it to go, like, hard rock or anything like that. Just maybe kind of, like, change it up like Marty Strange in one of the later tracks off of that LP that we reviewed, where strip everything back, have it be like, very bare bones. Like that would have been fun. And another note that I want to mention off to you, if you're like, hey, yeah, I don't want to listen to anything like, that dark, because I might be like looking into the void. Well, Matthew, I'm just going to warn you now, don't check out the album by Mount Eerie called A Crow Looked at Me, because if you want to talk about depressing music, just to let you know, that's one album that I don't think we will ever cover, because I'm just going to leave it at that. For those out there, if you know, you know.
I was going to say, I think for all the episodes we've done and all the recommendations we've done, I think that might be the first ever anti-recommendation on this show, where it's just like, don't do it, man. Don't do it.
Don't fly into the light, Carl. Don't fly into the light. But speaking about flying into the light and just doing things that you really want to do and not doing things that you shouldn't do, Matthew, before we kick it into the back half of the record and the review with I'll Change For You, I have a question for you.
And what is that question, good sir?
If the dear listener out there is very much enjoying our take on Nothing's About to Happen to Me by Mitski, and just very much enjoying what we do here on a week in, week out basis, what are some ways that they can help support what we do here on Hey Listen to This, and what are other ways that they can connect with us on other platforms? And if they're feeling very, very spicy, if they're like, hey, I want you to listen to this, what are some ways that they can actually make us listen to something?
That's a very good question, Ryan, and I will start by addressing the ways in which they can listen to Hey Listen to This, which is simply by finding us on your favorite podcasting platform of choice, whether you'd like to use Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, or Spotify. Basically anywhere podcasts are available, we are available too. We're also available on YouTube if you like using YouTube for your podcast. I know I like to use YouTube for listening to my podcast, so if you want to check us out there, you can find our uploads each and every week. And also, if you are on any of those platforms and you like what you hear, let us know by giving us that 5-star rating, or leaving a comment on any of our audio tracks if you're on YouTube. As they say, like, comment, and subscribe. And do that, and you'll let us know that you were listening to Hey Listen to This. Now, if you like what you're listening to on a particular episode, because we've done plenty on many different genre and many different artists, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I like this, and I want to share this with somebody, but I'm not sure who's going to like this. There might be a lot of people who like this. There might be a few people. I'm not sure who, though. I don't know who to DM, or I may just not like DMing because you people. I understand that, and fear not, we do have social media in which you can share our content, because if you find us on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, or Threads, you will find us with Hey Listen to This. You can either find our page just by typing in the name of our show, or the username TT Hey Listen. Again, that is TT Hey Listen if you're looking for us on social media. And speaking of TT Hey Listen, if you want to reach out to us directly, but you do not know us directly, we have an email address you can reach us at, and that is ttheylisten@gmail.com. Again, that is ttheylisten@gmail.com. Whether you want to give us some positive feedback, some critical feedback, or if you want to perhaps give us something to listen to by making a request, because we have done listener requests in the past, and we would be willing to do them again. So, again, that is ttheylisten@gmail.com. You want to reach out to us. Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads if you want to share us on social media and find us on social media. And if you just want to find us in general, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, YouTube, or wherever podcasts can be found. And as always, for those of you who have done this so far throughout our 118 plus episode journey here on Hey Listen to This, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, we're not part of any major podcast network. We're not selling clothing for big people. We're not selling any boner pills or video games or tax advice, even though that seems to be the big hot thing these days. It is April. It's tax season, so we're just two dudes who like to talk about music, and we appreciate you coming along for the ride with us. And as always, Ryan, I appreciate you for co-captaining this ride and being a great podcast partner as always. We've covered a lot of different artists on the show. We've had a good time covering about each and every single one of them, so I thank you for your input, good sir.
Yeah, and the compliment goes right back at you, man. Like, I always look forward to doing these reviews, and like, even just taking the time just to like sit down and just listen to music, because I feel like with Mitski here specifically, this is a clear example of an artist myself who I've known throughout the years, never really gave her a fair shake, and knew that she had like, a cult following, and I was, thanks to this episode, forcing myself to listen to this and like really kind of finding some good stuff, man. And even in our most contentious reviews, like a la like Wiz Khalifa, Public Enemy, Bruce Springsteen, even like Sabrina Carpenter, like we always have a good time, like just discussing like different aspects about music, what we like, what we don't like. And it's an awesome way for us to expand our musical palette. So yeah, I absolutely love doing this. Do it for the fans, do it for myself, do it to, like, just share music with you and get to experience what you have to offer on the other end here. But yeah, without any further ado, are you ready for the back half of the review here with I'll Change For You?
Yes, I'll change for you, and I believe it is your turn to kick things off with side B here and this track called "I'll Change for You."
Yeah, I do believe that is correct, good sir. Correct as usual, King Friday. Remember Mr. Rogers, man? Oh man. Sorry. Oh man.
Oh boy.
So yeah, this song here though was probably one of the most interesting songs on the record. However, if I had to say, hey Ryan, I know you don't have the bottom track off of this record here, but is there a track here that you would maybe consider putting in a bottom spot territory? Like, what would be, if you were ranking the tracks top to bottom, this would be the only mid song that I would put on the whole record. And the reason why I found this song to be very interesting though is the use of bossa nova here up against such a melancholic lyrics. I felt like that was a good time. The reason why I kind of consider this to be a mid song, one of the only complaint I really have about the track as a whole is I was a little torn on how Mitski did sound in the chorus on certain spots, specifically within that first chorus. She got a little pitchy, and I had to listen to it specifically focusing in on those spots just to check myself, because in the dynamic of our show here, I'm the one who gets a little bit more of being a pitch bitch, for lack of a better descriptor there. But I was just like, well, am I just complaining about her pitchiness, or am I more just not digging her vocal inflections? No, I feel like it's her pitchiness here. But yeah, outside of that though, the inclusion of bar noises while she's singing about being in a bar in the track, I felt like that was a nice touch, literal sonic panning about what's going on in the track. The instrumentation was pretty great. Very much enjoyed the wind instruments throughout the track. I felt like that was a nice touch. And yeah, just the overall meaning about the song. It's kind of interesting because I feel like this is Mitski directly addressing her audience in some aspects. Because yeah, you get bars of because I'll do anything for you to love me again. If you don't like me now, I will change for you. So yeah, you can also maybe more directly connect that to the feelings of heartbreak and just really wanting someone to love you again. But I read somewhere that this was more about her trying to connect with her fans and really allowing listeners to fully indulge in their sadness. It's just interesting how this track comes across. The lyrical highlight that I did have in "I'll Change For You" does come in verse 2, with the bar being, you can be with other people without having anyone at all. The whole classic trope of being alone in a crowded room. That was clever, and I very much appreciated that. But yeah, with "I'll Change For You," I don't hate the song, obviously, because it's not a bottom track. If it wasn't for her pitchiness in the chorus, I maybe would put this in the good song bucket. But yeah, "I'll Change For You" is gonna be in the mid song. What are your thoughts on that? "I'll Change For You." Do you agree with me that the pitchiness in the chorus was a thing, or am I just being a pitch bitch?
I first of all, I do kind of like that term. That has a catchiness to it. But honestly, and this may not surprise you, I did not hear the pitchiness in the chorus. I was not necessarily again, I come from the camp of unless you're really singing off key and you're really just like falling off the scale, without any grasp of the staff, I'm not gonna probably knock you too much for it. And I honestly thought her singing on this track for the most part was very strong and passionate. Not necessarily great. I wouldn't say it's like, to compare it, like to address another one of your parts of analysis. You mentioned how this is sort of directed at our fans. I do think that's an interesting take on it, and like you said, it may very well be the case. But I was following the narrative of the last 3 tracks and just decided this was about a relationship. And as far as songs about wanting to change back for someone you lost, the song that immediately comes to mind is a song we talked about many moons ago on this show, the closing track, Claws in Your Back from Julian Baker, where she is singing her guts out at the very end saying, I changed my mind, I wanted to stay. Like, this song really doesn't compare to that in the dramatic, no, please don't leave, I'll change for you type of vibe. That being said, I'm a little surprised you're as low on this track as you are. Not like super low as like bottom track territory, but I figured the elements of jazz were gonna like inflict themselves a little bit more into appreciation. Because I appreciated the jazz on it too. I thought the jazz piano was quite good. Had some very interesting chord changes that felt very jazzy. And you mentioned the bossa nova drum beat. I thought that was very impressive. Because I thought, okay, it's sort of this very like loungy type of track, very nightclub-esque. And then you hear the cocktail lounge sound effects. Like, okay, well that's exactly what they were going for. So subtly turned off. But overall, though, I would say this probably enters the good song territory for me. Because while I did appreciate the twists and turns of going jazz here, I didn't think lyrically it was very strong. Like, it wasn't bad, but just didn't do a whole lot to stand out. And even though I did appreciate the singing on here, it definitely felt like a bit of an outlier track, sort of a refresher track, almost kind of like the Beatles did with Within You, Without You on Sgt. Pepper, but definitely, again, not on that level either. But just sort of palette reset, if nothing else. So yeah, this I'll Change For You is a good song. Not a super standout song, but definitely not a skip either.
So a couple of notes that I want to bookend our discussion with I'll Change For You. So something I just thought of when you were talking about the concept of the song being about you were kind of more replying to my analysis about the song being about her addressing her fans. When I did my overview of Mitski, I noted that whenever she hit her album Laurel Hell, that was viewed as a step back and the first true I guess quote unquote misfire in Mitski's catalog. And maybe I'll Change For You is more literal sonic painting about her thoughts and feelings during that time, because again she has a very devoted fan base and she obviously feels very connected with them. But yeah, just something I thought of and I wanted to bring to the table. And also the feeling about that jazzy bossa nova feeling, I feel like that is more again sonic painting about how the world is while you're going through sadness, because the world doesn't allow you to be sad. It's just oh hey, everything's on fire and the Dow Jones is not above 50,000. So I'm just so depressed, and you have somebody being hey, Macarena, that might be a reductive form of what she was going for there, but it was just something I wanted to highlight there, man. So yeah, shout out to Pam Bundy there. Yeah. Anyways,
R.I.P.
Yeah, no, she's very much still alive, but she's just currently transitioning jobs.
Yeah, no, she is transitioning jobs. But I understand I feel like this song definitely has that contrast that we were talking about a little bit before, with the instead of here, where you have a very confrontational set of lyrics with a very upbeat and sort of bright and poppy type of sound. But I think we're both in the same territory of good, but not necessarily great. I think we can leave it at that.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, are you ready to talk about some rules here with the next track, which is rules?
Yes. Rules is the next track, and time to see if this track indeed rules. So, do you remember Feist?
Yeah. Shout out to Feist. I actually own one of her records on vinyl, but not the one that you're thinking of.
Oh wow, I was not expecting you to say that, but okay, here we are. Yeah, Feist. I'll be the basic person here. I only know Feist for that one song. We know what song it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's very much the vibe I picked up from this track right away. At least with the counting that kicks this track off. Although it is a little different, it's not necessarily 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I did appreciate the sort of variance on that. I also got some Penny Lane vibes on the horns that you hear throughout this track. Just very Beatles era McCartney kind of pop. So appreciated that too. But I will say that neither Feist 1, 2, 3, 4 or Penny Lane had steel pedal guitar, so that makes this track a little different in that regard too. But yeah, this track definitely has a bit of a playful vibe to it. But again, it feels like the playfulness is there to contrast what she's really feeling, and she's just laying down some ground rules as to how this relationship is going to work. And I will say that lyrically, I didn't find too much that stood out. Like, again, once you kind of get the concept of what the rules are and what kind of song this is, you kind of basically get the gist of it throughout, and you can sort of, enjoy the music. And the music is very good. Particularly the solo section where you get that very sort of ragtime, old school piano type of feel. I thought that was very nice. And then you get the ending of the song, which just has this very clashing, psychedelic counting of numbers all the way up to, I think, 12 or 13. And it just sort of abruptly comes to a halt. And I thought that was a nice little sonic touch that was very much appreciated. Again, I feels like after the punches that we got earlier, it feels like the lyrics are trying to soften up, and it feels like she's trying to soften up, which again, I guess is from a narrative perspective, just sort of a natural occurrence. Once you go as deep down as Dead Women or If I Leave, there's really nowhere to go but up. And this, I think, is an attempt to try to do that. But overall, I thought Rules was a pretty solid song. And once again, I think this one goes in the good song bucket.
I can respect that, man, and kind of just picking up where you left off. I'm putting this in the good song bucket as well. Spoiler alert, but I feel like objectively, I might be a little higher on the song as compared to you, in that with one of the tracks previously. Within the LP, that being Instead of Here, where I was just the lyrics are amazing, the instrumentation is basically what it is what it is. Here we kind of get you already kind of illustrated with the steel guitar, the country kind of twang to it, but you also get that with horn pops. I felt like that was very, very interesting, and definitely a different kind of take on the instrumentation as a whole as compared to the rest of the LP. But yeah, just the basically the concept of the song is the main driving force. For the dear listener out there who isn't paying attention to the track, all you hear is basically numbers throughout the whole track. But as you kind of illustrated, these numbers are more of a like kind of a wink wink nudge nudge of like how this relationship is going to go. Like basically you can say rules or just basically like, hey, the sequence of like, hey, like, you know, number one, I'll come over, I'll be dressed like your best idea. Number two, you be gentle. This goes up to number five, where I'll be alone for a while, but I'm only crying because it feels good. Like, you know, the process of falling in and out of love as a whole. And I agree with you. Like, I don't really have a lyrical highlight in rules as well. I did enjoy the lyric writing though, where it could just been a, for lack of a better descriptor, a dumb song about like just being like 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4, like, you know, just basically counting. Like, and we've also experienced like, I don't want to say because they're going for different things, but we've also experienced like, you know, simple dumb songs off of this in our history as a whole with reviewing different albums, a la the Big Thief review that we did, where we did the track, we reviewed the track Happy With You, and we basically agreed that that was the worst track off the whole album. But yeah, again, here you get Mitski's, like, you know, clever, sarcastic, kind of biting nature, and I very much appreciated that. So, and also like that psychedelic, like, you know, slowing down part that you were talking about, was the inclusion of numbers that we haven't heard yet, which is 6 7 8 9 10 11. And I very much enjoyed how things just switched up and things got very sludgy and you don't get a resolution there. And also instrumentally, one more thing I want to highlight is the fact in the break you get clarinet. Like, clarinet, anyone? Like, you know, again, I always love when I hear, like, you know, not traditional instruments within, like, this is not really pop music, this is indie rock through and through, but very much enjoy, like, you know, I guess, like, as oxymoronic of a statement as I'm about to say, a mainstream indie rock superstar as Mitski is, I very much enjoyed her including clarinet and like weird instruments in her music here. But yeah, rules, I'm putting in the good song bucket, but I feel like I'm just a hair higher on the track than you.
I think you are. I think you're a little bit more appreciative of this track than me, but I still appreciate it for what it is. It's a solid, very upbeat tune that I think doesn't contrast as much as some of the other bright, spry tunes have, but definitely has a leg to stand on of its own. Like, it's a good song, and like I said before, definitely not a skip. But I will go ahead and kick things off with the next track, which is That White Cat, and we get a big shift in sound because we'd gone away for a few tracks because we had the country vibes of Instead of Here, the jazz of I'll Change for You, and the sort of Baroque pop of Rules. Here we go back to what we heard on If I Leave or Where's My Phone with That White Cat, just this very grungy DIY indie rock vibe where it's very little more than marching drums, crunchy guitar, and a very panicked vocal from Mitski. And I'm trying to interpret what this song is about because part of me wants to say that, you know, I've seen things where people have talked about how the white cat in the song that sort of takes over Mitski's house is symbolic of like racism or the suburbs or just prejudice in of a whole. I kind of like to believe it's face value and she's just talking about like a cat that takes over her house because cats have that kind of vibe. And I've read stories that kind of fall in that line. Like I'm thinking like stuff from like Edgar Allan Poe that have a bit of a perversity nature to it where there's this darkness of, hey, maybe this cat actually is taking over my house and maybe there's nothing I can do about it, but maybe there's something I should do about it. I'm not sure what that is. And while I'm unsure about what that is, this cat continues to take over my house. Because as she says in the lyrics, I guess according to cats, it's now his house. And again, what really makes this song stand out is, again, the performance of not just the drummer and the guitarist, but Mitski herself. Like, she just has this very upper register, very powerful, intense, out there vocal. And unlike a lot of the songs where she's a lot more hushed and a lot more reserved in delivering big lines, like here it feels like every line is big and every line is intended to be big. And I very much appreciate that because it fits in with the menacing tone of the instrumentation, which is just this creeping sense of sparseness, of dread, of confusion, much like it was with If I Leave. I don't think the lyrics are as strong as If I Leave, though, and I don't think the musical backing for its intensity is quite as standoutish as that of In a Lake or even Dead Women. But I did appreciate this track quite a bit, and I'm going to put That White Cat into cut track territory because it definitely has a bit of a punch to it that is very much appreciated.
And that's fair enough, man. With my take on That White Cat, I know how when you open up your discussion about the track as a whole, you kind of were trying to, I don't want to say thread the needle, but you were trying to draw the, hey, this is what people are saying, what that white cat could be symbolic for. Here's how I actually would like this is probably what I'm taking it as, literally about being a cat taking over a house. And for those of you who are cat people out there, probably can I don't know, kind of relate to that. I know that cats kind of can be like, you know, very like, hey, like, no, this is my house. But you don't need to take the symbolism for any more than just at face value. You can still enjoy the track as a whole. However, I do want to illustrate, like, you know, how she ends the track off with the bars of gotta go to work to pay for that cat's house, for the red corseted wasp who lives in the roof, for the family of possums, for the bugs who drink my blood, and the birds who eat those bugs, so that white cat can kill the birds. Yeah. Like, you know, I felt like that was just like, you know, dog eat, kind of a representation of like a dog eat dog kind of world. And also, like, I did enjoy the symbolism of the imagery of a red corseted wasp who lives in the roof. Like, I don't know if that might be an illustration for, like, you know, somebody who is, for lack of a better descriptor, like a sex worker. But that might be, like, you know, really just taking that more of my own interpretation about the lyric as compared to what it actually might be about. But yeah, getting into other nuts and bolts about That White Cat. I very much enjoyed the strip back, like, you know, rocking, driving feel that you get in the verses, with the drums taking very much the focus. And I found the chorus to be pretty fun, very much trying to mimic. Again, we talked about with Dead Women, if I'm not mistaken, the do. Like, here you get more of like her trying to mimic the sound of cats, and I found like that was just very clever, and I'm very much appreciating what she's able to do there with that moment. I also found, like, I already highlighted the second verse where you get the hey, gotta go to work to pay for that cat's house. I already dissected that. I felt like that was pretty clever and very much enjoyed that. And I'm also enjoying the fact that the guitar is echoing the melody in the chorus, in the second chorus specifically. Always a fan of, like, instrumentation, like, you know, embellishing melodies and like melodic lines within tracks. Yeah, and the lyrical highlight, though, that I did have about That White Cat was found in the first verse, which was, things will leave you, they get broken, they get lost, the only thing you can trust is what you lived through. Yeah, I just very much enjoyed that embodiment, kind of like, you know, hey, things are gonna get fucked, but the only thing that you can really rely on is like, what you're able to live through. So yeah. But overall with That White Cat, I'm again putting it in the good song bucket, which is starting to become kind of cluttered with this review here for me, but I'm very much enjoying what Mitski's bringing to the table here.
I'm glad because, again, I feel like a lot. What I've noticed for a lot of these tracks so far is that no matter what the setbacks might be, whether it's not super standoutish writing or not super standoutish music, it seems like whatever lacks, the other is making up for. So if you get okay-ish music, you get great lyrics. If you get great music, you get okay-ish lyrics. But you never get anything that's like bad. You never get anything that's like a total misfire. So I think that is appreciative so far of where we're at with this album, for which we have reached the penultimate track, which is Charon's Obol. And Ryan, it's your turn.
Oh, I am so ready for Charon's Obol, man. So yeah, for me, I found this track to be honestly a very pleasant surprise throughout my whole entire experience of it. This track just basically comes across as so pleasant. Like, you get the slight country flair again, with that like steel guitar effect, but the overall like the feel that she's going for here, like, again, if you look into the lyrics, like, you get imagery about dogs gathering around a house at night, and you get these like the narrator of the song is basically going out and feeding these dogs as a way to make amends for what's happened in her life, and like the imagery is just it's very wholesome, kind of lonely, and a little bit dark, and I like it. I like it a lot, dude. So very much like what she was going for here. And throughout this LP, I've talked about like the vocalizations that Mitski utilizes to represent different like animals, or like literally for what you described as like, hey, I just planted a bomb, I'm just gonna sashay away. But here you get the vocalization of dog noises, and I felt like that was such a nice touch with the track. I very much enjoyed that, and it also really came together when the strings matched the bouncy rhythm of that vocalization, that is supposed to represent the dogs outside of the house. So very much enjoyed that, and also the lyrics are, like I already highlighted, are pretty legit. You can really one of my favorite things about like country music as a whole is the ability to tell a story. I know this isn't a country album and this isn't a country track, but here you really get the story about what's going on. Charon's Obol, is like a story of a woman who pays tribute to the dead by feeding the hounds of dead women. Hint, hint. After buying a house, the main character has been given a role of a caretaker for the dogs in the house. And also, the title refers to the Greek deity of Charon, who is said to ferry souls across the river Styx to the underworld, and obols are an ancient coin, thought to have been offered by the families of the bereaved as a payment or tribute to Charon for ferrying their loved ones home to the underworld. The title basically suggests a theme of morality and what we leave behind when we're gone, as well as what we might, in theory, take with us. So that's a lot of backstory, and I know sometimes you don't really need to understand the backstory to really get what's going on and really appreciate it, but that adds so much weight to what's going on here. And the only other thing I want to highlight about Charon's Obol before I officially declare it my second favorite song off the record, because spoiler alert, it is. You probably were able to tell that right off the gate.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lyrical highlight that I had was in verse 1, the bar reading, "Her heart was like a drawer she only opened when she went out to feed the dogs and let her memories bathe in the moonlight for a while. Like, again, very heartbreaking imagery, very like, a lot of metaphorical, like, uses of, like, just going through like life as a whole. So yeah, Catch Me on a Different Day, this could easily be my favorite song off the whole record. But yeah, I love If I Leave so much. And I just have to be true to my gut. But like, Sharon's Obol, again, took me by surprise. Second favorite track off the whole record.
I very much respect that because I don't quite have it up that high, obviously, with my top three being completed. But I very much appreciate your analysis of the lyrics being what they are, because I'm going to be completely honest, I never would have guessed that it has such a deep, complex ideology of, feeding the pets of the deceased and, trying to pay back what has been taken from this world. I thought that was, a very interesting perspective on your part, and I very much appreciate your analysis. Because for me, I didn't really have a whole lot of notes about Sharon's Obol, other than I thought this song was one of the smoothest tracks I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, what really got me about this track was how smooth it is musically. Like, you talk about the country stylings, like, this is the musical equivalent of opening a window on a nice spring day or a cool summer evening and just feeling that gentle breeze just overtake your body and just having the most refreshing feeling that you could possibly have. That feeling is what this song sounds like. And you get those super strong acoustic vibes. You get I think the brushes on the drums, I think, really help accentuate the smoothness of this track. And then you get those little oohs on the chorus. Like, this almost feels like you're listening to something off like the Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack. Like, that's how like rootsy and country like this is. But again, it has such a deep, complex meaning to what it is, and it definitely has that contrast that we've been talking about throughout this whole album of deep, very sort of plaintive lyrics mixed with such super smooth and sweeping instrumentals. So yeah, I'd say I'd put Sharon's Obol in cut track territory because this track is just such a wonderful listen, and I'm very glad to know that this one's in your top three.
Yeah, man, and I think with Sharon's Obol, I really get what draws people to Mitski as a whole. I will fully flesh out those feelings here shortly because we only have one more track to discuss, and I don't want to really be redundant when I give an overview of the album. So, yeah, without any further ado, Matthew, are you ready to close off the review by talking about the closing track, which is something that we've experienced here a little bit here recently in, like, western, northwestern, southwestern Pennsylvania, in that being lightning?
Yes, we have experienced a little bit of lightning throughout the last couple of days. A lot of rain too, and I'm kind of tired of driving through it and feel like I'm just trying to drive through the apocalypse. I'm not a huge fan of that. Speaking of the lightning, currently 2-2 with the Penguins in the second period. So this track is just very much a strong, solid closer to the entire record. Because once again, much like Cats and If I Leave, you get that middle ground between folk and rock where it has a very acoustic, very DIY vibe to it, but the drums and guitar are hard enough that it has that rock feel. I very much thought of Neil Young, also Liz Phair in that same category of just very grungy, rootsy, and sort of from the garage of the heart, if you will. And this track just has a very strong presence musically, and also lyrically too, because while the lyrics aren't super deep or they don't punch you in the heart like some of the others have, there are some good, strong lyrics about this feeling of embracing the storm that is ahead. And you get that line, my lyrical highlight: when I die, could I come back as the rain, see the world again, to fall again? Like, that's basically her realizing, hey, if I decide to go back into the dating scene, if I try to find my person again, perhaps the same exact thing will happen, or perhaps I'll be looking at it from the outside, appreciating it another way. And also, much like several songs on this album, you get that final push towards the end of the song where the instruments and her voice just very much raise themselves into a frenzy. And I did appreciate that too. I thought that was a very nice, powerful ending to this whole record, where you just get the loud slashing guitars, her pushing her vocals to the forefront, the drums driving everything through. So yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else to say about Lightning, except that, again, I'm going to throw this one in the great song bucket because I don't think it's quite as good as Charon's Obol, but at the same time, I thought the song was really good.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. And for me, you know how I guess the start of the review, I talked about like how there was one lyrical moment that I kind of realized that kind of ties almost like everything together, and I was going to talk about it like later on in like the album when we got to this track here. Well, guess what? We got to the Lightning, not the Tampa Bay kind, but the Mitski kind. But yeah, here I felt like the narrator who is in a lake in the track in a lake, like backstroking in a lake. She's now the same narrator who is in Lightning. Again, this might be stretching it. I might be pulling a Gumby here, like stretching things very thin. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna really go into that metaphor so much because even looking over the lyrics here real quick, there's nothing a lot that I can dive into. But yeah, like here, with like lyrics about like when I die, could I come back as rain? If I'm dark, all the better to reflect the mornlight. If I'm morn, all the better to behold the sunrise. And like even like how the track ends up with her singing, I can hear the song of my death, singing for the lightning to come, calling to the thunder. And you get the awkward moment at the end where she's just like, Polo. And like, if you aren't paying attention to the track, you might be like, the fuck? But if you are paying attention, she's really just saying, hey, I'm just, I'm ready to die. And hearing that is just so fucking haunting. And for her to end off the LP with that, oh my god, dude. Like, just really, really, really dark lyrics there. And hats off to Mitski for employing that. And also, one more thing about the lyrics, and I'll get into a little bit more about the song as a whole. My proper lyrical highlight is in verse 1, where you get the bars, running like ghosts on the roof, running like they're feeling alive again. Like, nothing really too much to dive into, like in terms of a meaning. I just felt like that bar was pretty cool. The bridge, like you illustrated, just sounded very good. And I also love how this whole song is, again, kind of a bit of a slow burn, but when it pops, dude, oh, it's really just good. And it's like really one of the better parts about the whole LP. With that in mind, I do enjoy the fake out pop that you almost get right away. Again, like that, like teasing aspect of it. And Mitski's vocals throughout the track are pretty tight here, and I love how she plays with the melody and how the instrumentation mimics her. Like I felt like that was pretty good. So yeah, with Lightning though, I guess maybe in hindsight I should maybe take it like one tick up and put it in the great song bucket. So yeah, I'm just gonna go with that, man. Lightning is gonna be in the great songbook, and I very much appreciated what was going on here. It's a pretty good way to end off the whole LP.
It is a very good way to end things off. Again, the instrumentation is very strong, and like you said, you get the possible pops with the actual pops, and it just creates this barrier of intensity that again has accentuated the better parts of this LP. So yeah, I think this is a very strong closer and very much an appropriate way to, not just from a narrative standpoint, from a musical standpoint, close things out.
And speaking about closing things out, the dear listener out there can't help but notice, and I noticed, and you've noticed as well, we've had 11 tracks up, 11 tracks have been smacked down, they've been put in a lake, the scorecards have been filled out by cats and dogs. So there's only one thing left to say about this review.
We did it, man.
We did indeed do it. We went up to Mitski and asked her what her thoughts and feelings were about the year of our Lord 2026. And she said nothing's about to happen to me. So I'm going to go first with my overall thoughts and feelings and rating about the record here. So I had an absolute blast diving into Mitski as a whole because I already illustrated in the episode here already that she's an artist who I knew was well respected, had critical acclaim, but I didn't get it. Like, I was just like, yeah, like, I'm Aaron in The Office where she meets Holly for the first time and Michael's making a big deal about her and she's like, I don't get it. And that was very much me with Mitski prior to this album being released and even more properly to us doing this review here. But what Mitski brings to the table is really, really clever lyric writing. Her ability to really compose songs in such an organic fashion and really explore like the depths of like the human experience, and even like specifically with this LP, like the experience of like heartbreak, being a woman, dealing with societal pressures, and and also like the instrumentation's fun as well. Like you get everything from French horns, bari saxes to clarinets, and you get like sonic feelings about like either like you're walking down the streets of Rome at night and you're hearing somebody playing an accordion, all the way up to like you're in a lounge in a bar in like New York City and you're hearing some bossa nova playing. Like everything is just this album definitely does run the gamut, so much so that I'm actually gonna bump up my rating just a half of a tick with giving Nothing's About to Happen to Me by Mitski a solid 9 out of 10.
And for me, you mentioned not getting Mitski before and kind of getting her now. I'm not even 100% sure I still get her. And I don't say that as an insult because to me, she feels very much in the Bjork category of eclectic nature, where she is willing to change things on a dime and change her entire sound on a dime. Because I'm not going to assume that this Mitski album is necessarily representative of any or all other Mitski albums. They could sound completely different to me. I'll have to check that out and figure it out for myself. But as far as this album is concerned, I really enjoyed it, man, because like you said, what you get is some very honest, deep, very in-your-face lyric writing that runs the gamut from playful and snarky to just downright miserable and on the precipice of death itself. And all of it very honest, all of it very frank, all of it executed very wonderfully. And musically, it's also executed wonderfully a lot. Like, it runs from some country folk leanings to some jazz, some pop, some baroque. You get a little bit of hard rock and I almost want to say punk in there a little bit. There is not really a bad note on this entire album. Could there have been notes that were a little greater, a little bit more, polished and precise and perfect? Yeah, there could have been, but I'm not going to hold that against it. Like, this is a no-skip album. and some of the tracks on here are very much great. So I would say, I don't know if this is representative of Mitski, and I really don't even care because this album is great. So I think I'm going to be right there with you on this one. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 too.
You know what? Yeah. So that makes the math pretty easy. And I'm glad that I kind of hinted at the fact that I felt like you might have been a little bit higher about the album than me, like at least at the start of the review. So I'm glad through the process of doing the review with you and like really just reflecting about what Mitski's bringing to the table and what makes her so great that we were able to reach a consensus. Like, again, I'm glad that we at least get Mitski through this LP. So yeah, I'm not even gonna try to do the math here with our average rating because we both gave it a 9. So yeah, I'm just gonna go into the next album recommendation for me. I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna keep it easy because the year of our Lord 2026 has been a little hard for your buddy Ryan here, but I'm going to cut myself some slack and I'm going to be a cowboy by recommending Be the Cowboy by Mitski. So I'm not going to even really go into so much about Be the Cowboy as a whole, because if you enjoyed Nothing's About to Happen to Me by Mitski, go into one of the critical darlings, like what people would consider to be like the essential album by Mitski, in that being Be the Cowboy.
Very nice. I'll have to check that one out myself very soon. As for me, I had a couple options as far as which album to recommend. And I thought about doing the Julian Baker album that we talked about, but instead I'm going to do another album we talked about many moons ago, and I sort of referenced it at the very end there, and that is Liz Phair with Exile in Guyville, mainly due to the instrumentation that is on that record and this one, being very stripped down, subtle, a lot of the lyrics being very frank in nature. And I will say that, pivoting back to something I said earlier on, where I figured there was a reason you may not get Mitski, is because she reminded me a lot of Liz Phair, and I remember you didn't quite like that album a whole lot. So that being said, I recommend it. I like that album. So Exile in Guyville by Liz Phair is my next recommendation based off of this Mitski album.
I feel like I might be due for a re-listen of Exile in Guyville by Liz Phair, because it's been a while since we did that review, and I feel like my tastes might have evolved or changed, or they might have stayed the same. Maybe I'm just still a stick in the mud. I don't know. Maybe now that I experienced Mitski and I can really just relate to her, really appreciate what she's bringing to the table, maybe Liz Phair will appeal to me a little bit more. But ladies and gentlemen, to summarize our review and just our overall thoughts, we both gave it a 9 out of 10. And I recommended Be the Cowboy by Mitski, and Matthew recommends Exile in Guyville by Liz Phair. So, yeah, if you enjoyed this review and you haven't listened to Nothing's About to Happen to Me, well, pause the pod right now, go listen to it. That way you can really just make sense about what we just talked about. And then after that, check out the other albums. Both me and Matt recommend them for different reasons. And yeah. So yeah, man, what a review, man. It's nice to get back on the horse here.
It is nice to get back on the horse and talk about this album. And I'm very glad you brought it to our attention because, again, I had been very unfamiliar with Mitski, and now that I've listened to this album, I feel I might need to familiarize myself just a little bit more on it.
And I feel like I need to dive into the back catalog of Mitski as a whole. That way I can really get the full picture of her. But that is Mitski. We've fully dove into her. We talked about her enough for this episode at least. So there's only one thing left to settle up with this review here right now before we can officially put this review in the lake. Matthew, it is now your turn to direct where our musical journeys are going to go next. What do you have cooked up for us?
Well, considering you mentioned earlier we've been dealing with lightning and rain in the southwestern Pennsylvania area, and rather northwestern too, because that's where I'm broadcasting from right now, over the last couple of days. I still feel like the weather's getting warmer. We have officially hit spring, and so people are getting outside and doing things. And I say it is time to get some vibes of good weather and good summer vibes, or good spring vibes, if you will, because we're approaching what many consider concert season, whether it's going to their favorite concert venues, checking out their favorite artists, and finding something to do on a Saturday night, whatever the case may be. So the two bands and the two albums that I have before you, Ryan, I'm going to make you choose either one based off of the venue in which I saw this band at. And they are both Pittsburgh-based venues.
Okay. Color me interested. What are the options, man?
Your options are either the Roxy Theater, located in McKees Rocks, or the Smiling Moose, located in the South Side.
Oh man. Based on just curiosity alone, I'm gonna do the Smiling Moose because I'm interested to see what you have behind that door. And based on your reaction, I chose the, at least in your opinion, the most excitable door.
I think so. Not that the other door wouldn't have been excitable, because the other door, I'll reveal to you later, is a band that we have seen together. This one, however, that we're going to be talking about is not in that category, or at least I don't think it is. You might have been at the show. I don't know. The point being, the band we're going to be talking about on the next episode of Hey, Listen to This is a band I saw at the Smiling Moose, I think in either 2015 or 2016. That band is called Purple, and the album we're going to be talking about is called 409.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Purple, but you know me. I'm always down for a good time and really just diving into music that I'm not familiar with. So bring it on, motherfuckers.
I'm excited, man, because I've just dug this album back up recently, and I'm very much ready to talk about it. I think this is going to be a really fun episode next week.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've never listened to 409 by the band Purple, make sure you listen to that before next week's review. That way you can have opinions about the album that me and Matt are going to be reviewing, and then also you can have opinions of the opinions that me and Matt are going to be bringing to the table. So yeah. Wait, hold on. Wait. Where is it? Where's my phone?
You've been using it the whole time.